Hello everybody, happy Sunday and thank you for being here. Here we are as always. Appreciate those of you that come in any capacity that you are able to, whether it's all the time live, whether it's popping in live when you're able to, saying hi, not saying hi, those that come back for the replays. I know that we have a wide variety of all of those, the people that share the meditations with others, and all of the other ways that you can possibly help and support. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Feeling a little extra gratitude here today. So just kind of wanted to start off with that. Hope everybody is having a good weekend. Hopefully everybody has had a good week. I will bring our intention up here right away to give you a minute to sit with it there. For those of you that don't know, the intention is released on Saturdays, so that way you have a little bit of time to sit with it before we meditate together on Sundays. The intention is always coming out of the astrology that is going on around us for the week. So it's been a little while since I've said this. Sometimes I feel like it just kind of goes without saying since it's the basis of the meditation, but it's good to get back to it once in a while and just state it, say it. I used to say it a whole lot more often. What I do is I look at all of the aspects of the week. I look at the transits, I look at how the planets are and are not interacting with each other, and I take, from Sunday to Saturday, I take it all into consideration, and I sit with it all, and I think about all the energies individually, collectively, and then somehow, some way, I come to an intention, which are putting my take of the energies and the impression that it gives me, and coming up with an intentional phrase that we can all share. The goal is for the phrase to be a little bit broad, so that way it's a little more all-encompassing for how the energies can play out. I've said time and time again that exactly how things are going to play out with the transits within your own life depends a whole lot on the circumstance that's going on, where you're at in your life, as well as your natal chart. So considering what aspects are going on within your own chart compared to right now, where the aspects are landing, what houses, what planets do you have in those houses, what topics are being activated, what transits do you have that may or may not be speaking louder than whatever the current ones are that we are talking about right now. You may have something going on that is overpowering everything else, or you may have kind of a little bit more of a quiet period, and then depending on where it hits, the transits may affect you a little bit louder just depending on how much something currently does or does not have your focus. So that's why I try to keep it a little bit broad, just so that way it's something that reaches everybody. I have said before that if you want to edit or change the intention at all, there are words or any parts of it that feel like they need a little tweaking, if there's a word that either doesn't sit well with you, or there's another word that you would like to add or something you'd like to take away, we could easily come up with other intentions too. Like, this is not the only phrase that we can use for this week because of the wide variety of expressions that we have for all the planets, as well as our own interpretations for them. So we could in fact, have a totally different intention that plays along with what is going on this week. Or we can use this one here that is, one of the possibilities, and we work into it, we roll into it together here, and it's a good way to start the week. So I know some of that kind of goes, is just kind of the basis of the meditation, but I think it's good just to say it and get back to it once in a while of just exactly where it all comes from. So I hope you get really, really good things from the meditation and the time we spent here together. But with giving you the intention ahead of time, and with all of these energies being things that are coming towards us, they're above all of us at all times, and it's either something that is currently active or in what we would call the applying, where it's getting stronger and coming closer to an exact range. These energies are around all of us, and they are symbolically telling a story of what is in the air and what is around us at all times. So therefore, if you take this intention, if you sit with it a little while with yourself, since it's based off of kind of what's going on around us, you will get good things that come up to you within your own mind, within your own thoughts, and within your own reactions. So the hope is that you get a really good takeaway from our session here together. But you can have some insights, you can have some kind of a little bit of a jump start if you look at the intention ahead of time. So that is why I put it out Saturdays, and that is kind of the process that goes into creating the intention. So this is our intention for this week. I lift up my highest intentions, bringing that word in. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. It's a little bit of a long one. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. So sit with that for just a moment, see how it feels. See what comes up, see what thoughts, feelings, how does it make you feel? What does it make you think of? What does the intention bring forward for you when we sit with it? I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. Saying hi back to everybody in the comments. Thank you for being here. Yes, 1111 portal. So those of you that are all about numbers, I know that I am. Tomorrow is, or Monday, which is tomorrow here where I am, is 11/11, so November 11th. And if you follow those synchronicities of those numbers, there is a duality and there is an alignment of the 11s coming together. It's the 1 and the 1 coming together. So you and the Creator coming together. So there's a unity here within the number of 11, and I really, really like it. So yes, that is what we have at hand. And you know, you can message me, anybody can message me at any time. It may take me a little while to get back to you, you know, just depending on work and anything else that I have going on, but my inbox is always open for anything related to the meditation and astrology and any other follow-up questions, comments, or you know, even constructive feedback. Open at all times for private messaging there. So let's get into the astrology that we have. We have a few things, and it's a little interesting this week. So crafting the intention. I lift up my highest intentions. It's like two parts here, okay? Lifting up your highest intentions, but then coming from a place of love and understanding. So there is a part of me that feels like the second part, a place of love and understanding, is a bit of a reminder, a little bit of a disclaimer as the intention was forming, as I was coming to it while I was looking at the transits and the aspects that we have going on this week. But I lift up my highest intentions is definitely there. So it feels like, I don't know, it feels like I had to add a little bit of an extra focus here this week with what we have going on. So the moon moved into Pisces overnight, and over last night. It was at midnight at where I am in the Eastern time zone. And the moon is sitting right with Saturn at the time that we are doing this live meditation. So if you are joining us Sunday night at 8:30, the moon is coming into a conjunction with Saturn. Actually, I'm looking at my clock right now, and it says 8:39 p.m. Eastern time where I am at, and I believe the time of exactness for Moon-Saturn conjunction was 8:38. So we are right in the time of Moon and Saturn coming together, and then you'll see that there's a lot of Saturn going on in the week this week. So I feel like that's just a little extra boost towards what we're working here with. So that's the first thing that I wanted to point out, is that right now when we're doing this live, the Moon and Saturn are coming together, and you'll see how Saturn is a key player in this week. So tomorrow on 11/11, on that 11/11 portal, we have Venus moving into the sign of Capricorn. I have 2:26 p.m. Eastern time, translating that to your own time zone. But tomorrow afternoon, Venus is going to move into the sign of Capricorn, where she's going to spend about a month or so. So moving from Sagittarius, the fire sign ruled fire mutable sign, so that changeable sign within a seasonal shift. That's where, Jupiter's sign. That's where Venus has been. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for just a second there. Now Venus is moving into Capricorn, into the bit more focused Saturnian sign. So if Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, Sagittarius is very broad horizon, very new idea and adventure seeking, very much wanting to go out and seek and find lots of new things, understand lots of things in a broad way, experiencing lots of things. There is lots of fun and excitement to be had and lots of eagerness in the sign of Sagittarius, Jupiterian type things. Now we're moving into, Venus is moving into Capricorn, which is moving into the sign of Capricorn, which is Saturn's sign. Saturn is in the sign of Pisces. So Venus for the next month or so is going to be ruled by Saturn in a way, and has something to do with what Saturn is doing, what's taking place with Saturn. Venus moving into the sign of Capricorn is going from that wide, broad, risk-taking, fiery, passionate Sagittarius into a much more focused, sensible, somewhat practical and dependable Capricorn earth sign. So there's much about the physical work and the physicality of this life in the sign of Capricorn. There is a way in which we see practical and physical ways to reach our goal. There's the theme of wanting to reach the highest expression or wanting to reach the highest goal and moving towards from a place of darkness into a place of light. So if you think of Capricorn within the solar year, thinking of it metaphorically, or you can think of it literally if you were in the northern hemisphere, but since we have people that attend here on both the northern and southern hemisphere, and we want to be inclusive to everybody no matter where you're at so you can wrap your head around it, think of it a little bit more symbolically. So think of see, even myself, I have a hard time wording it sometimes because I'm so northern hemisphere focused, and I just like to point that out, that it can be a little bit of a struggle to find ways, like I understand it within my head, but then there's sometimes can be hard ways to bring it into words that doesn't sound quite so literal. So that is something that I am personally working on. In the sign of Capricorn, we find at 0 Capricorn, we find the winter solstice. So we find the shortest day of the year. We find the place where we are in the darkest of the dark, starting with the sign of Libra. We start to the sun within the solar year, and within the story of the sun starts to move into darkness, into Libra. Okay, so light slowly starts to disappear. The sun starts to dip towards the underworld, where it goes into Scorpio, where it is in the darkest time of its path and of its season. And then it moves into Sagittarius, which is also losing the light very quickly, but knowing that we're going to be shifting over turning towards the light. At Capricorn, at the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, and symbolically across the chart, you have a point where we have reached the peak darkness. We have reached the most amount of dark that we are going to for the sun, for the solar year. The story of the sun is all about the quality of light and how much light there is or is not within the year. So then we reach the point at the winter solstice where the light starts to come back. So we went through this process of going down deep into the underworld for the sun and moving down into the darkness, moving into the depths. And then we reach this point where we are in the pits of the darkness, but yet we are in the place where light is going to start to return. That is the story of Capricorn right there. You are in the dark space. You know that there is a very, very long way to go, but you know that that light is coming and that light is returning. You know, thinking of the dead of winter, there is a bit of dependability and a bit of sensibility that is needed. Think about, you know, needing to have enough supplies and rations to get through the winter until you can get to spring and you can plant your garden again. You know, everything that you have from the harvest has to last you. Of course, now in the modern world, things are not quite like that, but that is the story of the zodiac and the way the light alternates back and forth. So that tells you a little bit about Capricorn and this drive to push forward, to move forward. It's all towards being productive, towards moving towards that light in a way. It's the darkest of dark, but knowing that effort is needed in order to get to get back to that light and to make it forward to that light, knowing that there's a lot of push forwardness. So you get this stable, sensible, dependable Venus. You may start to feel ways that you want to like find practical ways to find enjoyment within life, practical ways to find harmony and peace. Sometimes, you know, the little things can go a long way with Venus in the sign of Capricorn. So it can be, Capricorn can be a very motivating sign to keep trudging forward, to keep climbing that mountain towards the light, however far that light away seems like it really is, you can keep climbing towards it. There is a part of being on the less positive, more shadow side, being in the sign of Capricorn can, if that climb and if that work seems to be too much, if it seems insurmountable and like you can't quite reach for that, like it's too much work and there's too much effort and you don't quite have enough energy or resources or whatever it is to reach that, there can be a melancholic feel or like a overwhelming feel of like, I'm alone, there's all this work, I'm in the darkness, and I don't quite know which way to turn. And there can be kind of that type of thing. But there can also be a very productive light and a very reaching forward type of energy. So that's Venus moving through the sign of Capricorn. And we're going to have that for the next little while here. So that's Monday, Venus moves into Capricorn, and then on Tuesday, Mercury is going to square Saturn. So we talked about Saturn being with the moon at the time of our meditation here. Venus moving into Capricorn, into a Saturn sign. Now we have an aspect with Saturn this week, just ahead of the full moon that we have on Friday. So Tuesday, Mercury is going to be squaring Saturn. Mercury in the superior or the applying position is going to enact a little bit on Saturn. So you have the square that always challenges us to work towards something, or there's some sort of action, some sort of move, something that we need to do, right? So Mercury squaring Saturn, there is a need for some sort of organized thought. There is a moment of examining the frameworks and the structures and considering the blockages and the barriers and what may be possibly holding us back or limiting us. So it's a mental examination. Maybe, I almost said mental clarity. I don't know if it's necessarily that. It's more like a mental examination or mental analysis, like taking stock of exactly how things are working or how they are not working together. With the square, it's looking at the little bit harder sides of like, maybe not the rosy things of like what is working, what foundations are here, but what is not working, what is not reaching us towards that highest expression or that highest intention that Capricorn wants with Venus in it right now. Venus in the sign of Capricorn is going to be striving forward. So then as Mercury squares Saturn, as Venus is in these early degrees of Capricorn, it's like, what is holding me back from reaching that light? What is holding me back from reaching that that highest expression and that goal that I want to? You see where this could be very narrowing or very limiting in a way, but very motivating at the same time. So very like laser focused with the way this beginning of this week is kind of laying out a little bit here. And then coming Friday, we have the full moon in the sign of Taurus. So 2 weeks ago, we had the new moon in the sign of Scorpio. Now we have the full moon in the sign of Taurus. And we mentioned that when we talked about the new moon a couple weeks ago, we mentioned that Uranus would be conjunct the full moon this week. And 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about the new moon, and I mentioned Uranus coming, being a part of the full moon, I asked you to consider what will come to light, what felt like it was forming out of the darkness and then could start to step into the light. So now, retrospectively, I want you to consider kind of maybe what in big or small ways started about 2 weeks ago, around at the end of October, around the new moon, and what has come forth out of that? What has kind of stepped out of the shadows and made itself known? What has there been within your life that, you know, even if you try to not have it be Like even if what is it that keeps popping its head up and keeps showing a way to allow it to happen, even if you make excuses for it, even if you try to push it down, even if you try to, say I can't or I won't or whatever. What shows a way? Where is there a light? What has been coming to light to have a process to where maybe it's not at its full expression yet, but maybe you see a pathway to where you can get from point A to point B, even if you're kind of in the middle of the two of them. So that's just something that I'd like you to consider now that we're a couple weeks into this. So full moon at 24 degrees of Taurus, 4:27 p.m. on Friday, November 15th, conjoining Uranus by a separation of 1 degree. So Uranus at 25 degrees, Moon at 24 degrees of Taurus, and Sun at 24 degrees of Scorpio. Saturn is going to be stationing to go direct during the full moon. So this actually stationing period is something that we have happening throughout the whole week. By early next week, Saturn will be moving back in direct motion. So for the last while, Saturn has been moving backwards slowly, retracing steps and revisiting where Pisces shows up in our lives. Now Saturn is going to start to go forward. But first, before going forward, we have that stationing period. And that stationing period is a very strong planetary influence period. So there's a very strong Saturnian, other than these other reasons that we've listed this week, strong Saturnian influence to this week, as well as a strong Uranus aspect. So Uranus being conjunct the full moon, especially the moon, not the sun itself, the moon. Remember that the moon reflects reflects change and circumstance and environment and those things of this world because think of how the moon changes its phases often. Like the moon reflects those ever-changing circumstances within our lives, because our lives and our circumstances and our situations change just as quickly as the phases of the moon do. The sun is a bit more stabilizing, a bit more eternal and unchanging, because think about the sun of the light. It never actually changes. It can be covered up. It goes away after sunset for a little while, but it never changes. It's still there. The moon's light changes based on its location and where it is within its lunar cycle. So with Uranus conjoining the moon, there is a possibility for quick changes, quick emotions, things happening almost so quickly that you don't realize it until afterwards. Things that kind of knock you off your feet, not saying a good way or a bad way, it can be either one. So quick changes, enlightenment, quick changes as in breaking free from something, quick changes as seeing a way that you can go forward with whatever has been illuminating itself and whatever has been working its way forward. But it's changed and it's doing something different than the way before in some way or another, and then reaching towards that highest expression. Remember that the new moon was trine Saturn, okay? So there was this expansion with the new moon towards some sort of Saturnian structure, creating some sort of Saturnian thing. Now we have Saturn stationing at the time of the full moon. So Saturn is built into this lunar cycle very, very, very much so. So you have this formal, serious, structured Saturnian thing. It can feel impending, it can feel looming, it can bring some sort of weightiness. So for some people this feels limiting, for some people this feels like there is some sort of energy that is looming around. For other people this feels like we are able to set foundations and we are able to set new pathways and new habits to move forward in a consistent, productive way. Those are the two different sides of Saturn. Either Saturn pins us down and holds us down, or Saturn shows us the way to take continuous steps forward, slowly, meticulously, slow and steady, not missing any of the details, and covering all of the bases. So there is a very productive energy this week, but I could see where it could be very closed-minded, very narrow-minded, and very central focused, whatever that means for you. We have a lot of Saturn energy going on this week. Venus moving into the sign of Capricorn, coming into this place where she is willing to put in the work and she is willing to climb that mountain that she needs to climb to reach forward. Mercury squaring Saturn, showing us what is and what isn't working, examining those structures that may, and those habits and those things that may or may not be getting us to where we need to, and showing us the effort that we need to put in order to move those things away. Also could make us feel like we just aren't where we are supposed to be for some reason. So, that makes us feel some sort of not so positive way, also a possibility. And then the full moon in the sign of Taurus started out with that, that polarizing new moon in the sign of Scorpio. Remember that we had Mars opposite Pluto at the new moon. And the Saturn influence that is built into this whole lunar cycle. So I lift up my highest intentions. There is lots of energy of lifting up our highest intentions this week. The reminder is to come from a place of love and understanding. So with that being said, when we are lifting up our highest intentions, when we do that from a place of love and understanding, how can we climb our mountain? How can we climb our Capricornian mountain that Venus is about to climb? But how can we do that in a way that we don't slow down our progress and slow down our steps up the mountain, but while still letting others climb that mountain by our sides? But maybe they're climbing the same mountain, maybe they're climbing their own mountain, maybe they have their own tools and resources, maybe they have different shoes than we're wearing climbing up the mountain. We're all climbing our own path up the mountain, but in a way climbing the same mountain. Okay, so I'm thinking of like, when you're in nature, there's no two areas that are like exactly the same. So if you have a mountain, and think of if you have 100 people that are climbing that same mountain, but they're all starting from a different point at the bottom, going towards the peak. The plan is to like go straight up the mountain. They're all going to come across different terrain. They're all going to have slightly different paths. Some are going to have a little bit more rocks. Some are going to have a little bit more trees. Some are going to have a little bit more animals. You may even have more precipitation on one side of the mountain than you do on the others. But they're all reaching up towards that peak and whatever it is that they want at the peak of that mountain. And it may be that we want to climb that mountain for different reasons. Some people may want to climb the mountain just so they can see the view. Some people might want to climb that mountain just so they can say that they've seen the mountain. Some people may have the intentions to get to the top of the mountain and to meditate or to camp on top of the mountain, or have some sort of gathering with others that have climbed up their own path. Lots of possibilities, but everybody is metaphorically climbing the mountain in some way. So when we come from a place of love and understanding, then it just allows us to be more open-minded, more accepting. At the time of the full moon too, we're going to have Mercury and Jupiter working into that opposition. I threw that out there last week. So they're just going to be coming into that 3-degree applying range around the time of the full moon. So we'll be talking about that in more detail next week. But when you have Mercury and Jupiter coming into an opposition together, there is some sort of, and they're in each other's signs too. So they're in an opposition, but they are, they're both in a place that they don't, they're both in their detriment. So they're both in a not so easy sign for them to do their own things. But anytime you have you have Mercury and Jupiter coming together in any sort of aspect, there is a broadening of horizons. There is a way that we need to open up to multiple things. So multiple options, multiple scenarios, multiple ideas. So this is kind of just initiating at as far as like an exactness at the time of the full moon coming into that 3-degree range. So there's this way that with the full moon, it initiates us having these broader perspectives, or at least a call to do so. It's an opposition, so some of us are going to broaden our perspective and some of us are going to push that away and some of us are going to object to it a little bit. But you know, how can we see all the different perspectives and realize that we are all climbing our own mountain and we are all coming from our own perspective in some way or another. That doesn't mean you have to understand the other person's perspective. You just have to know that their perspective is theirs and you are each walking your own path. However, we are all walking our own path while walking simultaneously next to each other to get towards the same end goal, which is the top of the mountain, which is yeah, I feel like when you think of it that way, it's just very, it reminds you to be a little bit more human in a way. It just shows you, I don't know, there's so much, you know, I'm never going to get I'm never going to like be political or like talk politically on this meditation. If I ever do start throwing out, any sort of biases or like specific things one way or another, somebody please check me, because I don't ever want to do that here. That is never my intention. But there is clearly so much unrest in not only the United States, but across different places of the world. Currently in the United States, following the election, there is a lot of unrest and there is a lot of division. I'm not saying that there wasn't beforehand, and I'm not saying that any one side or any one person is or isn't right. That's not where I'm going. I'm just stating that it is easy to see that it's easy for people to be divided. It's easy for people to not treat others humanely. And it's easy for us to forget the other side, whatever that is, whether that's, you know, a presidential election in the United States, or whether that is a full-out war happening in Gaza, or anything else in between. It's just that for some reason, it's very easy for us to focus on our own little area rather than the broad perspective. So just wanting to kind of remind of that with the second part of the intention. So that's the astrology that I have for this week, and that is what rolls with the intention. There is, I can see the energy going both ways this week. I can see it being very productive, very forward focused, and very very encouraging, but I could also see where it could be a little bit like, you know, I'm right, you're wrong, so I'm gonna step ahead. Like, you know, I have the right path, I have the right ideas, so I'm going to have you step aside so I can step forward. I could see it being that type of energy as well, and that doesn't help everybody grow. That doesn't, you know, that only leads to some sort of oppressiveness in order for somebody else to step forward in front of the other. Drawing cards for this week, 3 of them popped out. I know, 3. I upped from the normal 2 that happens here, and we've now made it to 3. But it was really interesting, the cards that played out together. And all 3 of these cards, like I said, they just jumped out on their own in this order. So the very first one was the Queen of Wands, upright. The Empress, upright, doesn't focus real great. And then we have, so the Empress upright, and then the Emperor reversed. So I thought that was interesting. We have 2 feminine cards. We have the Queen of Wands and we have the Empress, both coming towards us in the upright position. And then we have the Emperor in the reverse position. So some sort of need for examination or removal on some level. The Queen of Wands, motivating. It's a high feminine energy of motivating us through our drives, our ambitions, our motivations. It's definitely reaching the highest expression. The queenly feminine wands always reminding me of fire, passion, drive, motivation to move forward from a high, full expression. And then we have the Empress, which is the divine feminine energy. So it's more all-encompassing feminine energy, where the Queen of Wands is much more fiery, passionate, drive, motivation to move forward. The Empress is more like all-encompassing all of the elements. So bringing that divine feminine energy, which is receptive, which is intuitive, which is sensitive, creative, nurturing, generating, and collaborating with others. It is all inclusive, the feminine energy. It is open, it is compassionate. And then we have the Emperor card that is reversed. So when we have the Empress that is coming towards us, so first I have the Queen of Wands is showing me like you can go forward, you have the high power and the high energy and the high blessing to go forward and reach whatever your current motivation is. But then we have this balancing of the Empress and the Emperor energy that needs to happen. The Empress coming forward and the Emperor reversing away is really just, to me, excuse me, here for me, what it really is saying is that we need to increase that receptivity. We need to increase the collaboration and the openness to what others are, be a little bit sensitive and be a little bit intuitive about how things are affecting ourselves and others, and maybe be a little less assertive, be a little less, I hesitate to say less masculine, because there's always needs to be a good balance of the masculine and feminine energy within us. I firmly believe that at all times. But maybe if we can be a little bit less logical and a little bit more intuitive. Maybe if we can be a little less assertive and a little bit more collaborative. Maybe if we could not rely so much on our intellect and giving information, maybe we can receive from others, and we can be a little bit more receptive and open to what others have to say. That doesn't mean we can't have our own path and our own way, but maybe just not pushing ourselves forward in front of others. So like when I see the Empress in the upright and then the Emperor in the reverse position, I think about that scene where I just said, no, I have the right path. I'm going to step forward now. I'm the one to go forward. It's kind of like a big over that, like that's not the right answer. That's not the way to go. Excuse me. It's more like finding a balance. So not overly asserting yourself. So coming from that place of love and understanding. So I feel like these cards in this order illustrates the intention very, very nicely, where we have lifting up our highest intentions to the highest expression that we can of our motivations, our intentions just being the things that we want to bring forward, those things that have been pulling at us, and knowing when to push forward those things and when to just kind of pull back and let somebody else have the stage, or let somebody else hear us, or let somebody else be heard. I mentioned that Capricorn so Capricorn and Saturn in general can be a little bit isolating. It can make us feel like we are the only ones, or we are the ones lacking, or like my needs aren't quite met. Venus in the sign of Capricorn can feel very much like if I'm not going towards the next thing, then I'm not doing enough. I'm not putting myself out there enough. I'm not reaching the highest. That shoulda, coulda, woulda thing can happen very, very quickly with Venus in the sign of Capricorn. And that can bring us back to that central focus. That does not come from a place of love and understanding. So I feel like with all of this very forward-driven energy that we have, it's good just to remember that we all come from the same place. And I feel like I've talked for a really, really long time today, so I apologize about that. Cool messages this week, in my opinion. Cool energy, very interesting energy. We can move forward and we can be very, very productive this week, but just make sure that we're not missing anything else. And this can be, like the broad perspective, horizon, like seeing everybody else's point of view. This can be more than just like two people, right? Like it could be, I don't know, if you have motivations to start working on a specific thing, like maybe like think of like I'm thinking of like cleaning your house. Like you have motivations to clean your house. You have like, maybe you see your dining room and you realize that your dining room is a mess and there's like all of this cleaning, organizing, dusting, deep cleaning things that you need to do. So you start focusing on the cleaning of the dining room, but then things are piling up in the other rooms, and the other rooms are becoming just as much of a mess, if not more, because like you're only focusing on the dining room. Meanwhile, life around the house is still happening and you've totally neglected the kitchen. And now the kitchen is an absolute mess. So it's like balancing our focus from from all parts and not becoming so center focused on any one thing, I think is the message that I'm kind of trying to get across here. So I will leave the intention up for one more minute for everybody to take a peek at. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. Lifting up highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. Knowing that we can move forward with whatever it is that our ambitions are, whatever it is that we've been focusing on, but so can everybody else. And if it's time for somebody else to have the stage for a little while, that does not mean that our needs are any less. That does not mean they need to be met any less. That does not mean our ambitions mean any less. But sometimes there's a time to move forward and there's a time to move backward. Those are not the right words. Sometimes there's a time to be assertive and there is a time to let somebody else assert. There's a time to be assertive and a time to be receptive. You have to have a balance of talking and listening in any sort of conversation. You cannot go in one way or one extreme or the other, because it just won't work well, and it won't be balanced. So our intention for this week here, I'm gonna bring that down and we'll get ready to move towards our meditation. This week I have some red jasper that is in a matrix with some other stone in here, and then I have some fluorite. So the red and the purple is really what I was going for here. I feel like that all-encompassing full chakra system, from the red, the root, the base, where we come from, all the way up to the full high understanding expression of the crown chakra. So from the expression of purple from the red all the way up to the purple, I feel like that was a good thing to bring into this week of what feels like some balancing, what feels like some leveling of some things. So we have our intentional candle here as always, white, blank slate, purity, cleansing, white sage oil in these candles as always from Stone Sanctuary on Etsy is where I get my candles. Love them so much. So we're going to light our intentional candle, and as I do so, I'm going to recite the intentional phrase. And as I recite the intentional phrase, feel free to say it with me in any capacity that you're able to, whether that's out loud in your own head or writing it down. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. As our intention grows, so does the flame. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. Love and understanding for ourselves, love and understanding for others, love and understanding for the circumstance. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. So as we come into our meditation here, I invite you to find in a comfortable seated position or any other position that you were able to find at the moment. And if you're ready to do so, go ahead and close your eyes. If you're not quite ready to do so, if you're not quite comfortable closing your eyes yet, that's okay. Just so slowly relax your gaze. Perhaps you can let your eyes kind of fall down towards the tip of your nose, finding a surface in front of you that you can look towards and focus your gaze towards, but just softly and gently letting your eyes fall towards that point of focus and even beyond it. So just looking gently and softly. When you're ready, go ahead and close your eyes softly and gently, coming into a place where we can check in with our body, where we can check in with our soul, where we check in with our heart, check in with our whole entire being. As always, let's start by checking in with our breath. Here, as we come into a space of checking in with our breath, we are noticing and acknowledging the level of energy that we have currently. Noticing how your breath feels, if it feels shallow or if it feels deep, if it feels fast or if it feels slow. Just making small observations. There's no need to judge or change. Here we are honoring exactly where we are while connecting with our breath and allowing ourselves to have something to focus on as we come into our meditation. Sometimes, especially for these short meditations, it can be hard to focus on clearing your mind immediately. So if we allow ourselves to focus on the quality of our breath, it gives us a way to honor where we are while giving ourselves something to focus on. It allows us to step into that observer of ourself. After you've taken a moment to sit with your breath and where you are at right now, we now start to deepen the breath. As you breathe in, the air slowly enters your nose or your mouth. As it comes down your throat, you feel it start to cool the insides of your throat, moving down towards your lungs. As the air fills your lungs, you start to notice that your abdomen distends, navel moving away from the spine. You know that your diaphragm moves down, lengthening your abdominal cavity, making space for your lungs and all of that air. And on the exhale, you slowly start to release that air. Notice the reverse changes that happen within your body as you release all of that air. As you continue to deepen the breath, let's aim our intentions a little bit higher with each passing inhale and exhale. Here, we be gentle on ourselves with our expectations, asking that each breath be just slightly longer, slightly more refilling than the one that came before it. So each inhale brings in slightly more air, each exhale releases slightly more air. Following this process of breathing in and breathing out, noticing the changes that happen within your own body, notice the feelings and sensations while you quietly connect to your own breath. As you continue this process of breathing in and breathing out, I want you to consider the motivations that have been calling to you recently. What is the mountain that you've been climbing? Or what is the mountain that you have been putting off climbing? What are the activities and the motivations that keep showing their way into your life? No matter how much you ignore it, push it away, it keeps coming back and showing itself to you. Chances are you know exactly what that is. I want you to consider these motivations and think about the highest possible expression of these motivations and these activities, these things that the universe keeps showing you. Focusing on whatever you have in mind, see it in your mind's eye in the highest possible expression. If at a future time there is a even higher level of expression, that's okay. We are just looking at the highest level that we can consider, that we can fathom right now, whether it feels obtainable or if it feels so distant and so much work. Picturing those motivations and seeing it playing out in its highest possible way, with no blockages, no limitations, full expression. Now, as you are picturing this in your mind's eye, and as you are continuing to breathe deeply in and out, you are connecting through that breath to that eternal part of your being that is within you. Some call it yourself, some call it the soul, some call it the divine spark, some people call it God. Whatever it is, it's within each and every one of us. So now we take those motivations and we take that highest expression of the scenario that we have been envisioning within our mind's eye and bring that to that place where the breath culminates within your being. Feel that space where the inhale completely fills and the exhale completely empties. Picturing these motivations of yours coming into your being. Perhaps you visually see it come from your mind's eye towards your chest, towards your heart space, melting into this space within you. This part of you that is eternal and will never die. Now, we have all individually within our own space and our own heart and our own ambitions and our own lives have created a scenario that we have reached and lifted to its highest expression and then have brought so close into our being, into our heart space, where that spark of divinity that lives on forever, that is being housed within this body. Each and every one of us have that space within us. Each and every one of us have that spark. Each and every one of us have an eternal light that is fueled by its own motivations and its own path. But the key is that we all each have our own light. Which means no matter how different the path, no matter how different the focus, we all have the same spark and the same light within each and every one of us. The details, the circumstance, the story, it all may be different to make us feel like we are separated from others, which we are. We are individual in our lives and our story. But at a deeper point, this light, this place that you brought your motivations to, as you continue to breathe in and out, this place where the light and the breath fills and expands and releases and contracts. That is a universal space that is within every one of our beings. When we remember that each and every one of us have this divine sacred space within our being, how can we not come from a place of love and understanding? How can we not realize that as I walk forward on my path, you can walk forward on your own path? How can we not realize that in order to clean the dining room as a process of keeping the entire house in order, we cannot neglect the kitchen? Balancing the Empress, the high, feminine, receptive, compassionate energy, with the Emperor, the divine, masculine, our knowledge, our assertiveness, our intellect, our ability to speak our own truth, our ability to drive forward towards our goals. Balancing both of those energies, as well as balancing our need to be an individual and move forward on our own path, while remembering each and every other person has that right as well. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. The highest expression of your motivations that you're considering. It's beautiful, isn't it? Each and every one of us have that beautiful vision within our heads right now. But each vision is so different from the next person's. We are all climbing up that mountain, reaching towards the top with our own resources, our own energy, our own path, circumstances, our own abilities, our own needs, and our own wants. As we close this meditation, I bring my hands, my palms together, uniting the left and right side of my body, the masculine and feminine side, as a symbolism of the unity of one and one. Somebody mentioned the 1111 portal, and that's what 11 is to me, is the unity of one and one coming together. The divine one, the human one, the masculine and the feminine, the individual and the next individual. I hope you can go forward this week motivated, empowered, ability to see clearly any blockages or paths in front of you, while still coming from a place of love, understanding, and not inhibiting anybody else. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate all of you on every single level. Excuse me. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of extra words when it comes to this intention this week. I don't know if that's my own level of energy or my own mind coming through in a way. But I think this intention and these transits kind of speak for themselves this week. I lift up my highest intention from a place of love and understanding. I lift up my highest intentions from a place of love and understanding. So just go forward with your own, make progress, but understand that everybody else is making their own progress, and their progress may not be exactly the same motivation as you want. I think the Empress and the Emperor coming through, one upright, one reversed, is a good example of knowing when to assert ourselves and when to be a little bit more receptive, when to allow other people to step forward. Not always an easy thing to do. Not always an easy thing to do. So thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you, for being here. I know the meditation was a little shorter than usual and the talking was a little longer than usual, but I wanted to get back to talking about those basics in the beginning here a little bit of just how this meditation comes about, because there is a background and there's a little bit of a behind the scenes that comes before the meditation here for sure. So I appreciate those of you that come and listen, those of you that come and participate, and I hope you get wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things out of it. So have a great week, and like I said earlier, reach out at any time. Like I said, I'm a little bit busy sometimes with work and kids and life and all those type of things, so it might take me a little while, but I will get back to you. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and I will see you all again next week. Hope you have a great week. Bye now.